Peter Grant.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I'm grateful finally to get the chance to contribute to this debate. I feel a bit in an unusual position. I think I'm speaking on day 6 of a 5-day debate, which is a privilege not granted to many. So I appreciate the chance to remind the House of some of the reasons why Scotland cannot accept and will not accept this deal, nor anything closely resembling it. Only some of the reasons, because we've only got 4 hours left, and some other people want to speak as well. For me, and for a great many of my fellow Scots, probably the most damaging and pernicious feature of this entire deal is the very thing the Prime Minister herself has chosen to list as its single biggest benefit. Because when she sent her email to all 650 MPs ahead of the original withdrawal agreement debate, what did the Prime Minister choose to put right at the top of her list of reasons for supporting it? She chose to put the fact that this withdrawal agreement means an end to free movement of people. The Secretary of State for the Home Department confirmed that today, and despite his protestations, there were howls of protest from the Conservative backbenches when my honourable friend made the same point yesterday. I find it astonishing from the comments of the Secretary of State for the Environment yesterday that this party of government seems more concerned about the welfare and free movement of racehorses than they are about the welfare and free movement of people. This party, the party opposite, believes that ending free movement of people is the best aspect of this deal. I beg to differ, Mr Speaker, I beg to differ. In fact, if the end of free movement of people was all that this agreement did, that in itself would be more than sufficient reason to consign it to the dustbin. When I see young parents in my constituency in tears because the Scotland they have come to know and love as their home, the Scotland that has made them so welcome, will not be allowed to give the same welcome to their families. When I see our precious health and social care services on which members of my family rely on right now, when I see them plunged into crisis because this British Government is deliberately making it harder for them to recruit the staff that they need, when I see my home country known throughout the world as one of the most welcoming and hospitable on the planet being dragged into this mire of xenophobic, small-minded isolationism by a government that has been resoundingly rejected in every election my country has seen during my 58 years on planet Earth, the only response I can give, with any kind of conscience, is I will resist this with every cell in my body and for every second that it is granted to me to remain in this life. Mr Speaker, if our people had been told the truth in 2014, if they had been told that the price of continuing to be governed from London was to be part of this vile policy, there would today be 59 fewer members in this Parliament, and the National Parliament of Scotland would be exercising full sovereignty as a full partner member of the European Union family. And isn't it utterly despicable? And I have to say to members on both sides of the House, look at yourself in the mirror, examine your conscience carefully. Those who deliberately in 2014 set out to target EU nationals who had the right to vote in our referendum because it was the right thing to do, those who targeted them and said you've got to vote to be ruled by Westminster because otherwise your future as EU citizens in Scotland could be under threat. And then for them to see the rights that they enjoy and the rights they expected their families to enjoy taken away from them as a result of a decision that their home country voted against and in a referendum that they were banned from taking part in. I really wonder how some people in this place can sleep peacefully at night, and I will give way.
Thank the honourable gentleman for giving way. He makes a very valid point about the 2014 referendum, and it is despicable when EU nationals' rights are played with as a bargaining chip. So can he speak to the then Deputy First Minister's Nicola Sturgeon point when she said 160,000 EU nationals in Scotland would be stripped of their rights to remain in Scotland if they didn't get access to the European Union, if Scotland didn't get access to the European Union. There's no unilateral guarantee like the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary have guaranteed on this side from Nicola Sturgeon then. So why is it OK for the SNP to use EU nationals as bargaining chips, but somehow when we guarantee EU national rights, we're despicable?
Can I first of all say to the honourable member, his government refused point blank to give the immediate unilateral guarantees that the Scottish Government asked for the day after the referendum. No, they refused point blank to do it. What Nicola Sturgeon was doing was pointing out to EU nationals in Scotland the danger of continuing to have an immigration policy that was reserved to this place. She was not stating what would happen in the event that Scotland became independent. She was warning about what might happen in the event that we didn't. And the honourable member knows perfectly well that the fears that are being expressed now by tens of thousands of people in Scotland are exactly the fears that they were warned about by the then Deputy First Minister at the time. And while I'm responding to the honourable gentleman, can I remind the House of one of the boasts he made when he intervened on the Shadow Home Secretary anyway? Because one of the things, unless I was very mistaken in what he said, one of the things that he's done for his constituents, he boasted that he has fought to get them passports. He has fought to get them a passport. This party is proud of the fact that people who have come here to live, to work, to contribute as a matter of right have now got to go to seek the services of a Member of Parliament to fight to be given the passport that should be theirs as a matter of right. If they think that is something to be proud of, Mr Speaker, then it demonstrates once again how far the moral compass of this government is from anything that could ever be accepted in Scotland. And that's only when we look at the moral and humanitarian arguments against what the British Government are seeking to impose on us. It would be bad enough embarking in such a regressive, socially divisive path if we thought it would make us better off. But the Government's own analysis, all of them, and they've done quite a few, in fact, just about every credible analysis ever done about the economic impact of free movement of people tells us it's good for the host nation and it's good for the peoples of the host nations. The Government's own analysis shows that no matter what Brexit scenario we end up in, ending free movement of people, slashing the rights of immigrants to come here, and by anything like the scale the Government intends to do, damages our economy. So even if we subscribed to the Thatcherite gospel that there's no such thing as society, that it's just a collection of individuals, even if we followed her creed of look after ourselves and to hell with everybody else, ending free movement of people would still be the wrong thing to do. To subscribe to this Government's anti-immigration and anti-immigrant philosophy, we wouldn't just need to be selfish, we would need to be arthur flaming heeds, Mr Speaker. And on the 19th of December, at the final PMQs of last year, I asked the Prime Minister to give me one single tangible benefit, just one single tangible benefit that my constituents would see that would compensate them for the social and economic damage that ending free movement of people we know will cause. She couldn't give a single example. If the Home Secretary wants to listen, I'll give him the chance now to stand and give one benefit to my constituents of ending free movement of people. And even if he was interested enough to listen, he wouldn't be able to give an example. I'll happily, in fact, give way to anybody in the Conservative benches who wants to take the chance now to answer the question that the Prime Minister dodged. Nobody wants to answer the question. Now. Nobody on the Conservative benches. Nobody in the Conservative benches can identify a single tangible benefit that my constituents will see. The Conservatives, in fact, are telling me by their silence that I cannot vote for this deal, because they are telling me by their silence that ending free movement of people is not good for my constituents. So how dare they ask me to support it? The Prime Minister dodged the question, just the same as she and her successor ministers have dodged every difficult question they've ever been asked during the Brexit process. Indeed, the ongoing debacle over parliamentary scrutiny of this shambles demonstrates not only is this a Prime Minister and a government that's out of control, it's a Prime Minister and a government who will cynically play the card of parliamentary sovereignty when it suits them, but who will then use every trick in the book, and quite a few tricks that are not in the book, to try and stop us from doing the job we were elected to do. They spout the creed of parliamentary sovereignty sometimes, and they do everything possible to undermine parliamentary sovereignty at others. They went to court to try and stop Parliament from having any say in the triggering of Article 50. They whipped their own MPs not successful in every case, but they've whipped their own MPs to vote against allowing this debate even to happen. And I've noticed in every single day this debate has taken place that those who claimed it was an act of treason to allow this debate to take place haven't exactly been sloped backward about coming forward and asking to join in the debate at every opportunity. They abuse the privileged position they have in terms of setting parliamentary business to try and strip the meaningful vote of any actual meaning. And then, like bad loser, spoilt brat football managers the world over, they've even resorted to ganging up on the referee to complain and accuse him of cheating every time he gives an offside decision against them. Not only during the 90 regulation minutes of points of order on Wednesday, but the Leader of the House even tried to do it again during a wee bit of Fergie time yesterday morning. The Government's mounting an intense campaign of what can only be described as misinformation to frighten Parliament, to frighten our citizens, to frighten businesses, to frighten everybody into believing that we have to accept this deal because it's the only possible deal and the only alternative is no deal. That's not true. That is simply and palpably not true. And the Prime Minister knows that it's not true. How can we be sure the Prime Minister knows it's not true? Because she's told us herself on at least half a dozen experiences that I can trace. She's said it at the dispatch box. She's said it in TV interviews. She has told us that it's not a simple choice between her deal and no deal, because in an attempt to scare the no deal brigade in her own party, she was forced to admit that if her deal fails, Brexit might not have to happen. When I saw that first reported on the BBC website, I thought it must be a mistake. But if it was, it's a mistake the Prime Minister has made almost every day since then. So the Prime Minister's clearly stated position is that we are not faced with a simple binary choice of hard deal or no deal. We do still have the option of keeping the deal we already have. Staying where you are is always an option. The status quo is always available. The best of all possible deals is the deal that we have right now. And I have to say to my colleagues and good friends on the Labour benches, the only deal that meets their 6 tests of an acceptable Brexit is the deal that we have right now. And if they could just get their act together and accept that, then between us we can stop this madness with absolute certainty. Earlier this week, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary Ndetsu, in what I have to say was the most shambolic appearance at a Select Committee I have ever seen, managed to walk into a trap and make an admission that he'd been trying for the whole meeting to avoid making. It was a trap that was set, presumably by mistake, by one of his own fellow hardline Brexiteers, because he was asked in terms, Minister, would you agree that by taking no deal off the table it weakens our hand in negotiations with the EU? And his reply was, I would. Yes. Think about that for a minute, apart from the slight technical point that there are no negotiations with the EU because the deal's been done and the negotiations are finished. Not only the Minister, but one of his ERG, an ERG hardline Brexiteer, has admitted that the government have it in their power to take no deal off the table. So why would they leave no deal on the table? But they know, and everybody knows, that it's the worst possible outcome. Why would they try to force a situation where it is the only alternative, or they want us to believe it's the only alternative that is there? Why in recent weeks have they spent so much time and money telling businesses, trade unions, voluntary organisations and everybody else something that they know is not true? Well, only the government could answer that. But when you put it in the context of all the other shenanigans they've been up to, it seems obvious to me what they're doing. They know the Prime Minister's deal has absolutely no chance of getting through this House on its own merits. In fact, I think most ministers have known for months that as soon as the Prime Minister set her stupid red lines, there was no possibility of an acceptable deal that complied with those red lines. But instead of doing the right thing, instead of persuading the Prime Minister that she had to change her approach, they set out to try and topple the whole process. They were determined that the only vote we'd ever have, the vote, remember, that they don't want us to have at all, that vote would be rigged. They knew the only good thing about the Prime Minister's deal was that it wasn't quite as bad as no deal, so they set out to fabricate a situation in which they tried to tell us that no deal was the only alternative. That's why we're seeing the Prime Minister's almost Damascene conversion from no deal is better than a bad deal, which is in their manifesto, by the way. No deal is better than a bad deal suddenly, almost overnight, became any bad deal is better than no deal. Just one example of the hypocrisy, the double standards that we've seen from this government. Perhaps, in fact, the most brazen example of double standards that we've seen for the government, and that's saying something, was in a tweet earlier this week from Glenda.
I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman for giving way. He's making a very powerful argument, and the right argument, that it's in Scotland's interest to stay a member of the European Union. But could he please explain to the House and to my constituents and to the people who are watching this in Scotland how he can make that argument whilst at the same time making the opposite argument that Scotland should pull itself out of its closest and most important union?
I'm delighted that the honourable member wants a debate on independence. Can I just suggest to him, be patient, because that debate is coming not because I want it, not because he wants it, but because the people of Scotland are demanding it. The simple answer to the question, of course, is that the nature of Scotland's union with this place is fundamentally different from the nature of the union, the partnership union of the European Union. But as I was saying, earlier this week, Glenn Campbell of the BBC, not Glenn Campbell, the Rhinestone cowboy, in case you're wondering, he tweeted, after he'd interviewed the Secretary of State for Scotland, his tweet said, Scottish Secretary at David Mundell DCT says, if PM's #Brexit deal is voted down, he doesn't see why MPs shouldn't be asked to vote on it again once they've had time to reflect. The Secretary of State for Scotland doesn't see why, having asked MPs to vote on the deal once, the government shouldn't come back and try again once we've had time to reflect. So it's okay for Conservative MPs, because that's who he's talking about, to be allowed to change their minds about the Prime Minister's deal. It's okay for Conservative MPs and their standing orders allow them at the end of this year to change their minds and have another go at removing the Prime Minister through another vote of no confidence. But it's not acceptable to allow the people the chance to confirm whether or not they have changed their minds. And to go back to the intervention from the honourable member from Edinburgh South, got it right, at the same time as this Parliament and these nations are being presented with a choice of at least two futures, the people of Scotland are faced with a choice of two futures as well. It's not a choice that they wanted to be forced into. It's not a choice that we wanted them to be forced into. Because we have a situation where there was a majority vote to stay in the Union of the United Kingdom. There was a significantly bigger percentage majority vote to stay in the Union of the European Union. And through no fault of the people of Scotland, against the express wishes of the people of Scotland and our national parliament, we are being forced into a position where it is no longer possible to respect the results of both referendums. So Scotland, the people of Scotland, are going to have to decide which future they want. Which of these two unions is more important to us? Is it a true partnership of equals, which, as our friends in Ireland have seen, sees all other members show solidarity and support, even for relatively small members of that partnership? Or is it this so-called partnership where the powers of our Parliament are already being stripped back unilaterally by the British Government, as confirmed by Britain's own Supreme Court? Do they value more a union that was forged by the desire of former mortal enemies to work together to sustain peace and prosperity across a continent, or a union that was forged through bribery and corruption for the sole purpose of sustaining sectarian bigotry in the appointment to the high offices of state? Do they give most importance to a union which has at its core the fundamental belief that the exchange, the free movement of people, the free exchange of talents, the free exchange of ideas benefits us all? Or a union which denounces its citizens as queue jumpers and chooses to exploit them as bargaining chips? Because the exploitation of migrants as bargaining chips was not the policy of the Scottish Government, it was the stated policy of his colleague in the United Kingdom Government. Mr Speaker, this Parliament faces a choice next week. That choice has got to be not the Prime Minister's deal or no deal. The choice has got to be the Prime Minister's Brexit or no Brexit. That is the choice this Parliament deserves and demands. That is the choice the people of these islands deserve and demand. And the time is coming, and I think it's going to be a lot sooner than most people in here expect, where at least one of the partners in this union, possibly more, but at least one of the partners in this union will see a demand from its citizens to be given a further choice. Do we want to remain part of a union which tramples on the rights of our citizens, which treats us as a second-class nation in this partner at every opportunity? Or do we want to remain part of the most successful trading partnership and one of the most successful partnerships for peace? A partnership which even now we have numerous other candidate members desperate to get into. And again, I'll give way if anyone on either of the benches, if anyone... You see, Mr Speaker, we have a lot of countries trying to get into the European Union. Nobody that has left the Empire of the United Kingdom has ever asked to come back. Nobody that has won their independence has ever asked to come back. I wonder why that might be. So, Mr Speaker, we will be opposing this rotten deal next week. Not because we think that no deal is an option, but because we want and we demand the alternative, to give Parliament the choice to say, is this the Brexit that we expected, and if not, don't do it. We have to give that right to the people of these islands as well. Nobody voted, or nobody was elected to this Parliament in 2017 on a no-deal Brexit manifesto. Nobody voted for a no-deal Brexit in the referendum. That wasn't one of the options. This Parliament and this government does not have the right to do anything that endangers creates the danger of a no-deal Brexit without the explicit approval for such a course of action from the people of these islands. And for a government that claims to respect the democracy of the people or the democracy of Parliament to attempt to force the issue by effectively giving us a choice between would you like to voluntarily give us your money or would you like me to shoot you, that is not an acceptable choice, Mr Speaker. It is not acceptable. It is anti-democratic. It is fundamentally wrong for the government to seek to turn this into a choice between do what the Prime Minister tells or leave without a deal. Not leaving is still an option. Not leaving must continue to be an option. And we will continue to press the case to allow the people to decide, do they want to accept the Prime Minister's Brexit, or having seen what it really means, having seen the disastrous impacts of the deal that the Prime Minister has achieved, do the people want to decide that the best deal we can ever get is the deal we already have?